Hello friends, tonight we're going to take a look at the new Glock 43X. It is cool. The silvery slide is cool. The front serrations are cool. The shape of the whole damn thing is cool. And you look cool shooting it. I like Glocks, but for a long time, the Glock range remained fairly static with just minor updates here and there, and I just wasn't very excited to handle a Glock most of the time. But in the last few years, starting with the Glock 19X, horrible color and all, Glock has begun to excite me once more. As Glock has stagnated, we, the consuming public, have forgotten that Gaston made his name with an incredibly revolutionary product that came to define pistols as we know them. When Glocks were new, they were cool, they were controversial, and given what the media erroneously said about them passing through metal detectors, owning one felt transgressive and maybe even a little kinky. Oh, they don't have safeties. You're living dangerously, you dirty bitch. Ah, those were the days. But fast forward to 2010, owning a Glock was perhaps the least kinky firearms purchasing decision a man, woman, or sexy horse could make. The Glock became the ubiquitous gun-shaped gun, the gun your mom pictures when you tell her you like guns. It's also the gun she buys when she sees a Honda Civic with rims and tinted windows drive through her neighborhood for the first time and starts to have vaguely racist home security concerns. It's the gun you buy when you only want one gun. It's the gun you recommend to new shooters. It seems to be the only gun that cops ever buy, and it's frankly bizarre that it's not the new U.S. military service pistol. Glock is just the gun you buy in America. But Glock has traditionally put shooting pleasure and aesthetics behind reliability. They made a pistol for the masses, but what about those of us who derive pleasure from a great trigger pull? So for me personally, as time passed, I kind of moved on to Berettas and didn't buy a Glock for a long time. But with the release of the Glock 19X, it felt like things were changing. I'm a shooting enthusiast. I love guns that are fun to shoot. In fact, the funness is really all I care about in a gun. I have guns that run well that I would use to defend my home. So I want more cool guns. Guns that stir something in my heart and pants. And shooting the Glock 19X, horrible color and all, definitely stirred something in my pants. It was a pleasure. Then came the Glock 45, which I bought in a flash. And then came the Gen 5 MOS guns. And then came the 48 and 43X. These are sexy, cool guns. More the kinds of guns German movie villains carry, and less the kind of guns carried by the generic police people that populate the hit procedural CSI masturbation cleanup. Glocks are sexy again. Once more, I love Glocks. Features. The 43X seems to follow the 19X by introducing a longer version of a gun you already own, only the slide is a weird color. But that's not really it. Much like the Glock 45, this is really its own thing and probably deserved its own model number. So let's quickly dispense with all the differences between the 43X and the original 43. That's the boring stuff. The 43X has a magazine capacity of 10 rounds, while the older 43 holds 6. The 43X has a longer grip than the original 43, as you can see, similar in length to a Glock 19, though much thinner. I hope that's coming through. I can't actually see what you're seeing, but hopefully I got there. You can see how thin that is. However, the 43X's grip is slightly wider than that of the 43, but it doesn't really seem to matter, and in my opinion, actually makes it a little bit more comfortable. The frame of the 43X is contoured differently overall. The 43 and 43X both share this super fun grip texture that's subtle and functional at the same time. And not very stabby. It won't irritate your fingers or your stomach as it's pressed up against it in a holster. The slide length is the same between the 43 and the 43X, though the 43X is silver, obviously. So it becomes clearer that the 43X is really its own thing. The 43X weighs 18.7 ounces with an empty magazine. It's a svelte 1.1 inches wide, and the barrel is 3.41 inches long. And this barrel is the new Marksman barrel. So really, this is a Gen 5 Glock where it counts. And the front serrations are great. I love those. But this beautiful speckly finish, that really got my attention the first time I saw this gun. And this is the same NPVD coating as the other Gen 5 Glocks. It's got the Gen 5 trigger. That's about it, I suppose. A lot of the stuff going on with this gun, it's kind of self-explanatory. You get it when you see it. So which guns compete with the 43X? Well, the 43X is really here to take a chunk of the market away from the Sig P365. But what about the M&P Shield and the XDE, you say? Well, those guns are super ugly and they offend my senses, so we're not going to talk about those. This is about the 365 and the Glock. If somehow you have not seen it, the 365 is this little SIG. It's really little, actually, that holds 10 rounds in the standard magazine and has a 12-round magazine available. The gun is incredibly popular. It's nearly the same size as a small single-stack 9mm pocket pistol, but it has a good trigger, a well-designed grip, and that capacity really helps it shoot like a much larger pistol. There was no way Glock was going to let SIG hang on to that entire market segment forever. But the SIG, it's still smaller than the 43X, substantially so. It has better factory sights, unless you pay the big bucks for the big orange Ameriglows on the Glock. And the SIG offers a magazine with better capacity that is the same size as the Glock, if not a little smaller still. That's right, even with the 12-rounder in the SIG, I think it's still just a hair shorter in the grip. The 365 is also thinner, 1 inch instead of 1.1 inches. The SIG weighs less even. And hell, it even has that weird little accessory rail that I don't know what the hell you can put on there, but it's got it. So on paper, it would seem that the SIG is the winner, but at the range, it's not so clear anymore. The 365 has a higher bore axis, and with hot ammo feels very flippy. I don't feel like I can get enough of a grip on the SIG, which is an asset when it's stuffed in your pants, which is where it will spend most of its life. But as with wieners, it is with guns, that shortness is no longer an asset once the gun is removed from your pants and presented to an assailant. The Glock, while harder to conceal, feels like shooting a full-size gun, and the Glock's lower bore axis leads to far less flip and a far more comfortable shooting experience overall. The SIG's trigger has a less defined break, and it kind of just moves rearward until the gun fires at one point or another. All the striker-fired SIGs feel that way to me. The older Glocks have a less defined wall in a similar way. But the 43X has a remarkably crisp trigger pull, and I have an easier time with it. I also can't overlook that the 365 has had some problems. I don't own one, and I can't tell you if you're going to have problems with yours should you buy one. You just should know that there have been some. The problems have been well documented by a lot of different channels. However, I have a good friend who swears by his, and he has had no problems. And look, the 43X is very new. We can't be sure that it won't have problems, but Glocks are trusted for a reason, and history tells me that I would be safe placing a bet on this particular sexy horse, even right out of the gate. So why would you want to choose the 43X over other Glocks? Look, Glock makes just about every conceivable size of gun. There's not much point in me describing Glock's entire range of guns for you here. You probably own most of them, but I will say this. I always felt that the original Glock 43 was a bit too large for the features that it offers. There are smaller guns with similar magazine capacity. Though the 43X has a longer grip that's harder to conceal, this gun offers a lot more power in your pants, and I much prefer it to the original 43. If you can conceal a thicker gun in your pants, the 26 is always an amazing choice, as is the 19, but you probably already have a bunch of those other ones anyway, and let's face it, you're buying the 43X because it has a silver slide, and silver slides are fucking cool. That's why I bought it too. But enough already. How does the 43X feel and shoot? As a general rule, you don't often hear people raving about how much fun to shoot their tiny guns are. No one says, wow, I took my Glock 43 to the range today. I shot 500 rounds through it and wanted to shoot 500 more. I love the way it twists around in my hand like it wants to get away. They're not fun. They suck. Instead, people say, I took my Beretta and my 43 to the range, I shot 500 rounds through my Beretta, pretended to forget that I had my 43, and then lied to the guy in the lane next to me when he asked what gun I carry. Little guns suck. They are a compromise, and compromises suck. Having only 6 rounds suck. Having no grip to grip sucks. Having a short sight radius sucks. Manipulating tiny controls sucks. It all sucks. But the Glock 43X does not suck because it doesn't have any of those problems. The grip is marvelous. And while Glock grips are usually fat and utilitarian, or in the case of the 26, chode-like, the 43X grip is beautifully slim and comfortable, a pleasure to grip. The grip texture is grippy enough, but it won't irritate the soft, pasty skin of your belly, and the contours of the grip and the undercut beneath the trigger guard just feel like home. Look at how that thing fills out the hand. It's really lovely. It feels so right. This grip doesn't just feel nice for a carry gun, it feels nice, period. The capacity isn't the greatest, but for a gun this slim, it is fantastic. And 10+1 in the chamber feels substantial when you're running a short course at the range. It's like you're not at some great insurmountable disadvantage with just the 10+1, the way you feel with 6 in something like the original 43. With the 43X and 2 magazines, you feel both well-armed and comfortably light, able to dress as yourself rather than dressing as tactical carry man with non-obtrusive gray man gun-filled army pants. You're just a guy or gal or concerned horse with a super nice and smallish gun in your pants. But none of that is actually why I bought this gun. I bought it because it's crazy fun to shoot. It's like a very sexy, shiny, tiny little Glock 19. This is the sort of gun that James Bond might carry if he ever realized that he has the same tastes in carry guns as a rich European in 1938. This gun is lightning fast to shoot. It's easy to shoot like a full-size gun. It's cute and interesting like something small. It draws fast, it hits fast, and it reloads fast. The magazine release has a really positive click. Yeah. And the empty magazines, they really get out of there. You can see how it's evacuating those out with great haste. And the flared magazine, well, it hungrily accepts another magazine. Yeah, look at that. It's not the most flared mag well in the world, but it would also be kind of obtrusive if it was. The slide lock isn't ambi, but I don't really care. I'm fine with that. And it keeps it nice and slim. I love the front serrations. I can press check every 5 seconds, all the time, around the clock. It's very convenient. Look at that. Is it loaded? I don't know. Let's check. Oh yeah. Is it loaded? Let's check. Yeah, let's check. Is it loaded? Yeah, is it loaded? So that's nice. I like having those front serrations there. The coating is really beautiful. I don't know if that's coming through the camera, but it is very speckly and nice. It looks kind of like a lovely egg, an egg from a very exotic and rare bird. Very attractive. But the trigger, this is my favorite part of the gun. So I feel a short, squishy take-up, followed by a very firm wall. This is strange, even for a Gen 5 Glock. The wall is very, very firm. It's got a tiny bit of creep that gives way to a very firm and satisfying snap. Once more. Wow, that's delightful. Once more. Yeah. The reset is the same short, tactile, and audible reset that we expect from Glock. No surprises there. Only the reset deposits my finger right back at the very firm wall. I push on that wall, maybe feel a little creep, and there's that nearly perfect snap once more. It's delightful. Yes. The 43X has the best stock Glock trigger I've ever felt, and a few other people who have tried the gun have made similar comments. So for comparison, this is my Glock 45. The trigger meets a wall here, but it has a lot less definition, and the trigger just kind of rolls back. Well, like other Gen 5 Glocks. Once more. Yeah, I mean, there's a wall, but it kind of it doesn't have nearly the definition. And it is more of a proper rolling break that you hear people talk about. And the reset, it's nice and short like the 43X. But again, it's not depositing us back at the very well-defined wall. It's just kind of dropping us in somewhere. And by the way, don't take this as a knock against the Glock 45's trigger. It's a very good Glock trigger, but the 43X feels almost like a fancy drop-in trigger. I really, really like it. So I've only had time to shoot 200 rounds through the 43X, so I don't want to comment on reliability yet, though it has been perfectly reliable thus far. Although I would expect any gun to go 200 rounds without malfunctioning. But I'd like to note that I've had trouble putting this gun down, and I can't wait to shoot it again. I adore this gun so far. It is outstanding, and I cannot wait to take it back to the range. I just can't stop gushing about it. So what would I change about the 43X? So far, nothing. This gun will undoubtedly get a set of my preferred Trijicon sights, probably the HD XRs in this case. I do wish the gun came with 3 magazines instead of 2, like the Glock 45, and I wish the magazines were more readily available, but the damn thing's only been out a few days. I can't really fault Glock for that, but I do wish it had the 3rd magazine. Unless this gun has some critical flaw that hasn't revealed itself yet, which, hey, that's totally possible. The gun is very new. I'm extremely happy with this gun, and I think that you will be as well if you give it a try. Final thoughts. Remember how I said that I can't wait to go back to the range with the 43X? When was the last time you said that about a tiny gun? When was the last time you spent all week thinking about how you can't wait to run around shooting drills with a tiny Glock? This gun, like the Glock 45, is more than just a bigger frame on a little slide. It's more than the sum of its design decisions, whether you agree with them or not. Glock has managed to make a slim, comfortable, concealable pistol that is a pleasure to look at, hold, shoot, and of course, stuff down your pants. This pistol has that difficult-to-define quality that makes a gun appealing simply because it is cool, not because it fills some sort of niche, though it does that too. The 43X is lovely, and I highly recommend that you feel one at your earliest convenience. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night.